What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 463 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, October 12, 2022. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. My sleep has been terrible for the last couple days. I was in Philly for Extreme Rules on Saturday. I was in New York on Friday for Comic-Con. I was in Mass last week to visit some people. So I've been all over the place in the last 7 days, which is why my sleep schedule is completely off. My voice is a little shot. I apologize in advance. And I should also note as well, I haven't had the chance yet to organize all the questions. So if you hear one question of yours and then your other question pops up later, that's why usually I put them all in the same place, like when I'm answering John Ritland's questions. I'll answer them all three at once. Sometimes I'll do it like later on, like one and then another couple questions later, because I haven't organized it yet. Today's one of those days, so I apologize in advance for that as well. Let's get right into it. Nike only from YouTube. Wyatt versus Lesnar at the Rumble, yes or no? No thank you. I think the best time to do a match like that would have been when Bray first came back in 2019. I think the only time I've ever really seen Bray as a threat to Brock was in late 2019 as The Fiend. I think I either wrote an article on it or was going to at the time, but when Bray was really being pushed as like a monster heel, of course that was right fucking after that awful Survivor, or not Survivor Series, Hell in a Cell match. It was, I think I probably wrote it beforehand. I may have wrote it afterward, but you know, Bray and Brock before that, when Bray really started to feel like a threat again, maybe. But I just feel like they wouldn't have chemistry. And not only that, but Brock, his character, if you can even call it that, doesn't gel well with whatever the fuck Bray Wyatt is or whatever he does, the supernatural stuff. I just don't think it's a good mix. And you know, Brock probably is not losing to Bray Wyatt. So I don't really want to see that. I don't think that's a good idea. Nike only, their second question. Will we ever see Shane McMahon in WWE again, wrestling in the ring, or, and if he does, he says, who would you like to see his last match be with? No, I have no desire to see another Shane McMahon match. I mean, we kind of were supposed to get that final Shane match at WrestleMania 32. One more match turned into like 24 more matches in the next few years. He never really got that proper send-off. But for someone like Shane, does he need that proper send-off? Does it even matter? I mean, the guy is now by Mania season 7 years older than he was when he came back in 2016, and he was pretty slow even at that point. I thought the idea of Shane wrestling this year at WrestleMania, this past year, was awful, regardless of whether it was against someone who could really carry him like a Rollins. I feel like it's a waste of whoever he's in the ring with. And the time to do anything major with him and like Triple H would have been years ago when he first came back. How much does something like that even mean nowadays? And Triple H can't wrestle anyway, and that was the best possible opponent they wanted to see Shane in the ring with because of the story being told there with the whole family ties and whatever. We can't get that match anyway. So no one on the roster really intrigues me as a potential opponent for Shane. I really hope we've seen our last Shane match. He can come back at some point. I mean, he already had the fucking Rumble return too. He came back in the Rumble this year, so if that's the last we ever see of Shane in WWE, and he was in there till the end as well, I have no complaints. If they want to bring him back for one more match, which I don't think is going to happen, I don't really think having Shane in a match is at the top of Triple H's priorities. Who would it even be against? I honestly have no idea. Micah Does It from YouTube, their first question was, what do you think of the new commentary shakeup in WWE, and how does this affect people like Pat McAfee? Where do we put him now? The commentary shakeup I like for the most part. I like Kevin Patrick on the Raw commentary team. He's going to have to get a lot better, I will say that much. Corey really carried the Raw commentary this week, and I think Kevin's very good. But calling main event, and doing backstage interviews are very different than calling Monday Night Raw, the flagship show, keeping it up, keeping up with the heat of things, and bringing the energy, bringing the passion. He has a great voice. He has the product knowledge and whatnot. The problem is that he just it doesn't sound like he has that confidence yet. He's one night in, so I don't blame him. But honestly, I feel like so far, he's a bit of a step back from Jimmy Smith. And I don't know why they got rid of Jimmy Smith. I thought Jimmy Smith was great. Maybe not the best commentator they've ever had, but one of the better voices of Raw in recent years that really brought a different voice and energy to the Raw announce table than we've heard in several years, at least in my opinion. I think Kevin Patrick will do fine in the role ultimately, but right now, it's going to be a bit of a shaky start, I think. And he may take to it, he may not, but we'll find out in due time. At the very least, I appreciate WWE, taking a risk with him in that role. As far as the SmackDown commentary team, Barrett and Cole, I like a lot. I wish they didn't fire fucking Nigel McGuinness. I thought that was terrible. Not happy with that at all. I do think Barrett and Cole will work well together on SmackDown. The NXT announced team, I haven't watched NXT yet, so I don't know how Booker T did, but he was never really my favorite commentator. Vic Joseph is fine. That's really about it. I'm glad Kathy Kelly is back. I'm glad Byron Saxton is off Raw commentary. Not that he was bad, but he was really useless in that role. I'm glad we're back to two-man announce booths for every single show. I think that's great. So, overall, I'm a fan of the shakeup. Hate the fact they got rid of Nigel McGuinness. Not a big fan of the fact they got rid of Jimmy Smith. We'll see how Kevin Patrick does. I think Corey works well in his role. I think, Cole and Barrett. Did I say Cole before? I meant Corey Graves. Cole, Corey sound similar. I think Corey works well in his role, and I think Cole and Barrett are going to have great chemistry as a duo on SmackDown. You mentioned Pat McAfee, so it's really this simple. When McAfee comes back, probably the end of the year after college football season is over, he's going to take his place back on that desk alongside Cole. Barrett goes back to NXT. Booker T goes bye-bye. So Booker T's role is only temporary, which is a positive, I think. Again, I haven't listened to him on NXT yet, but still not a big fan of him on commentary. I think Barrett goes back to NXT with Vic Joseph, and Pat McAfee will be on SmackDown. So this new big commentary shakeup really only affects Raw, because in a couple of months, we're going to get the same exact teams we already had for SmackDown and NXT. Only really Raw is changing, with Kevin Patrick replacing Jimmy Smith, and Byron Saxton going to an interview position backstage on Raw. Micah does its second question here. I know Extreme Rules is over, but what are two of your favorite matches from that show from over the years? For me, I would pick John Cena versus Brock Lesnar from Extreme Rules 2012, and Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens versus Cesaro versus The Miz Intercontinental Championship from 2016. Both are great matches. You said two of my favorite matches from Extreme Rules, and I mean, there's so many. In recent years, Extreme Rules really hasn't been that great of a show. So I probably wouldn't go with any matches from any recent installments. But the earlier installments, like the ones you mentioned, 2016, I was there for that show. That was my first Extreme Rules. I was there this year. That four-way was amazing. That four-way was one of my favorite matches in 2016. I would put even above that, AJ and Roman from that very same show. That would probably be one of my favorite Extreme Rules matches from the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, that is. Beyond that, 2012, I would probably have to agree with Cena and Brock. That show also had Sheamus and Bryan, a 2 out of 3 falls match for the World Heavyweight Championship, and Punk and Jericho in a street fight for the WWE Championship. That was a great show. Christian and Del Rio from 2011 would probably be up there as well, just for the sole fact that Christian became World Heavyweight Champion that night. So I know you said to mention two. It would probably be Christian and Del Rio from 2011 in the ladder match for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then AJ and Roman from 2016. 09 also had some good ones too. I thought Edge and Jeff Hardy had a really good ladder match for the World Heavyweight Championship. 2013 or 2014 had that great Evolution Shield match, that awesome 6-man. That was probably another one of my favorites. I don't remember what happened in 2015, but let's go Cena. I'll give you 3. Cena, Brock. We'll go with that one. We'll go with Christian Del Rio from 2011, and we'll go with AJ and Roman from 2016. Back to Nike only, their question was, with all the returns that we've seen in WWE just this year alone, which one for 2022 is your favorite? I pick Cody Rhodes. It probably would be Cody Rhodes. I was there for the two best returns, in my opinion, Cody Rhodes and Bray Wyatt. I was there at Extreme Rules on Saturday. I would probably go Cody, though, just because we knew he was coming in. We knew Bray was coming back as well, after a certain point. But with Cody, he had been gone for several years, 6 years, but he came back as the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. The return was perfect. He had a great match with Rollins. He won, got a massive ovation in front of nearly 100,000 people, 70,000, 80,000, whatever it was. A lot of people, tens of thousands of people. And then, just getting the music and the look down to what he was in AEW. That, to me, this year cannot be topped. And he was also booked well after the fact, too. So I got to go Cody Rhodes. Bray Wyatt is a close second. Their next question. Wyatt is back in WWE now, and I'm having trouble seeing who he starts a feud with first. I think he may target AJ Styles. I feel like that could be interesting. Yeah, I don't really know either. I think it's possible that for the first month or so, he may not target one specific superstar. It may just be him attacking people or just showing up and being cryptic. It can't go on for too long, though. At some point, he is going to have to start a storyline with someone else. I mean, it is fucking professional wrestling. You have to feud with people. You can't just go around attacking people forever. Who that is with, I don't know. I think it very much depends on whether he's going to be a babyface or be a heel. I would have him be a babyface. I mean, people are cheering him anyway, so I think to go against that would be dumb. I know he works well as a heel, but he also really hasn't been a babyface all that much. I think that would be a more interesting route to take. Some more merch. I just think it makes sense. Not that he's out there smiling and singing and dancing with people unless he's Firefly Funhouse Bray. What's that old Batista line? Kissing babies and hugging fat girls. I don't think Bray Wyatt is going to be out there doing that sort of stuff. I think he can be a babyface, though. I think that's the right route to take. Who he feuds with, I really don't know. I honestly don't. I think him and Karrion at some point, the matches, I don't think would be great at all, but I think from a promo, visual standpoint, presentation standpoint, that could be cool. I'm trying to think of whoever else. Him and Braun, no. Rollins, maybe, just because their last feud sucked, so maybe they can make up for it with the roles reversed this time. That would be interesting. And I think Rollins could also get a really good match out of him, if he's not the Fiend especially. So I'm going to probably say Rollins. But Rollins is also now the United States champion. I don't think Bray Wyatt needs a title. So I don't think, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not really sure. I really haven't really decided that yet. I've seen people say Riddle because of his relationship with Randy Orton, who was the person who beat Bray in his final match back at WrestleMania 37 last year. So Riddle would make sense as well. But again, I think it's entirely dependent on whether he's a face or a heel. And I'm sure we'll find out in due time. Probably as soon as SmackDown on Friday, which he will be on that show. Let's see. Next question comes from Joe M. from YouTube. He's got two questions. First one being, has 2022 been a massive step back for Damian Priest? He's gone from being the longest reigning United States champ since Ambrose, which was back in 2013, 2014. I don't think that's true, by the way. Is that true? Was Priest the longest reigning U.S. champion since Dean Ambrose? I find that hard to believe. I thought there were other people who held it longer, like Sheamus or whoever, but I'm probably wrong. Anyway, to a heavy in a faction, it seems like logically that should be the other way around. Don't get me wrong, he's still got a good role on the show, but after such a long and protected run as U.S. champ, shouldn't the next step be to try to get him towards contending for world titles? In addition to that, his character of a guy struggling with his good and bad side was really interesting, and now it seems like he's the least interesting character in the Judgment Day. Interesting. So I do think it is a bit of a step back. Judgment Day at this point, though, are getting very good heat. And here's the thing, though. I think with Damian Priest, you got to be specific. Not you specifically, Joe, but I'm just saying in general. I could see people saying, oh, he's in a much better position now than he was 6 months ago, because 6 months ago when he was U.S. champion, he wasn't getting reactions. Yeah, he wasn't getting reactions because they fucked up his momentum completely. He was ice cold towards the end of his run as United States champion. He was. I mean, they completely fucked his character by just... I think what you mentioned, the whole good and bad thing, where he switched mid-match, was beyond stupid. It was really dumb. The crowd didn't know how to react. And this was a guy that was very over, like at this time a year ago. Damian Priest was getting really good reactions in the latter half of 2021. When he first won that championship and was having kick-ass matches with Drew, with Sheamus, with Jeff Hardy, among others... He was really, not the most over guy in the company, but he was getting great reactions. And I even said at the time, I'm laughing now, but like I said, he could be the one to beat Roman Reigns, which obviously won't happen. But he was protected, and he was a newer face. He's almost 40, if he's not 40 now. But he was a newer face from NXT that was really good in the ring. He had a great, just likable character, the whole rock star kind of persona about him. I like that a lot, and I think he can go back to that at some point. The Judgment Day stuff I didn't mind him doing because I thought him in a group like that made perfect sense given his past as Punishment Martinez. He is just another guy in the group. Dominic is abysmal. I mean, he's far better than Dominic, but Dominic at least has something going with Rey Mysterio. Rhea Ripley is great. Finn is starting to heat up again. They kind of need to get Damian on the right track. I agree. He is a heavy in a faction. He'll lose to people like Edge. He'll lose to people like Rey Mysterio, although I think he beat him the last time they had a match. I think he lost to Riddle a week or two ago on Raw. So he loses far more than he wins, and that's not good. I do hope that he will be better off when the group is over at some point. I think, like you said, at least he's on the show a lot now. So it's not like he's not on the show. He's on fucking Main Event or whatever. It's not like he's directionless. He's just another guy in a group. But I do agree. You would think he would go from where he is now to where he was a year ago. And instead, it's the other way around. I wouldn't completely give up on him just yet. But it is a bit weird how they were very high on him about a year ago. And they kind of fucked it up by doing the whole, oh, is he good? Is he bad? Does he know? Like he's switching mid-match. To me, that whole thing was dumb. That was not interesting. And it completely ruined any momentum he had. Because coming into 2022, he had almost zero fanfare. Zero. People just didn't give a fuck about the guy. So hopefully they can get back to that. Not that point, but where he was a year ago at some point down the road. Joe's second question. I know the Money in the Bank winner being booked like shit isn't anything new, but does Austin Theory's 16-match losing streak, holy shit, I don't know if that includes house shows or not, currently make him the most misused superstar in wrestling? No. I don't even know if I would put him in the top 10. I will say this, though. The booking of Theory lately has been just mind-boggling to me. I really don't get it. Like, he wasn't even being booked that much better when Vince was still in charge before he left. Like, he won the briefcase, yeah, but it wasn't like he was... I mean, up until Vince left, he was still losing a lot on Raw and SmackDown. And ever since Triple H took over, Theory beat Ziggler once, I think, in the main event of Raw, like 2 months ago, but has lost every fucking match he's had. Pinfall, like, he's been pinned in tag team matches, too. It's not like he's not being pinned. He's lost by countout. He's lost pinfall matches. He's lost tag team matches, singles, whatever. He's lost a lot. And the mindset that, oh, he's got the briefcase, so it's okay, is such a Vince McMahon fucking mindset. Unless they take the briefcase off of him. I know, like, Vince was the one who put it on him in the first place. Maybe Triple H does not see him as the next big thing. I think Theory is very good. I think Theory can be a world champion by this time next year. The problem is that they're booking him like trash, so if and when they put the title on him at some point, no one will give a fuck unless he starts to kind of get back on the right track. And I mean, it's not like he's winning and losing. He is doing nothing but losing. It has been 99% losses for Theory since he became Mr. Money in the Bank. So why should anyone care about him? That being said, I feel like there are people, like to me, Dominic Dijakovic, who aren't even on the fucking show. They're not even on Raw. Or more so in AEW. There's a lot of people. You said in wrestling. You didn't say WWE. In WWE, Theory would probably be in the top 5. His booking has been questionable. Very questionable to say the least. But there are people who aren't even on the show. They could be doing a lot more with. In AEW, there are a lot of people who are not on the show that I just don't understand. I mean, misused. I mean, Claudio ain't doing shit right now. He lost the Ring of Honor titles, done absolutely nothing of note since, and that was 3 weeks ago. You know, Miro, he's not even on the fucking show. Malachi Black, before he took time off, was doing nothing. Those people, to me, are far more misused than Theory. Because at least Theory's on the show. He's having matches. He's not winning it all. But he has a guaranteed title shot in his back pocket. All the other people do not. So, I probably, in wrestling, in WWE maybe, but in wrestling, I would not even put him in the top 10. And that's coming from someone who is a Theory fan. Let's go to the Facebook questions first from Noel. What would be your top 5 Halloween franchise movie series? So I don't know if you're asking me, like, my top 5 favorite horror Halloween-related, like, franchises, or, like, my top 5 favorite Halloween movies. Like, not the holiday, but, like, the movie Halloween. Franchises, I don't really have any favorite franchises, but, you know, I mean, Halloween itself I like a lot. I've loved the recent movies. Halloween and Friday the 13th, probably specifically. I never really cared for Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched the remake not too long ago, and it was all right. Those are the two that come to mind. I didn't watch Hellraiser. I didn't watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I didn't watch whatever the fuck that Pinhead movie was. I forgot the name of the movie, unless it's called Pinhead. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Scream, I guess, would be up there. I was never the biggest Scream fan. I watched the original. I liked it. All the sequels I was not a fan of. I'm not even sure I could say Scream. I'm trying to think in recent years, like other Halloween-related franchises, if we're not including Halloween Town. But, yeah, I would probably say Halloween itself, though. If we're talking top 5 favorite Halloween movies, like the Michael Myers movies, to me, I mean, I haven't seen them all, but it would be the original, in no particular order. The original, the remake, and Halloween Kills. I've seen Halloween 2 as well. I haven't seen Halloween 3 Season of the Witch yet. I'm going to try to watch that in the next couple of weeks before Halloween. Now, the new one comes out on Friday. That's probably going to be on that list as well. I enjoy all the remakes of Halloween, at least the recent ones, and the original. And Halloween 2 was also good as well. So I would probably say, I mean, it's a very simple answer, but I would probably say those. Their next question, thoughts on the OC returning to WWE and helping AJ Styles? Yeah, honestly, so I'm of two minds of this thing, and I said this on Twitter earlier in the day before Raw on Monday when it was first reported that Gallows and Anderson were probably heading back to WWE, and they did because they showed up on Raw on Monday. I find it very hard to care about the two on their own. Yes, they're with AJ, and if you're going to bring them back, putting them with AJ Styles is probably the best thing they could have done. Because on their own, they're fucking boring. Their Impact run was fine. They won the tag titles 3 times. They had a really good match on the way out with Motor City Machine Guns, actually. But, I mean, it's the fucking Motor City Machine Guns. You would have to be really bad to not have a good match with those two. But I just feel like with Gallows and Anderson, they're yesterday's news. They were really popular 6 years ago when they first came in. The booking in WWE killed them. Nothing I've seen from them since they left WWE would make me think, oh man, they were so misused. Like, they should have been booked better their initial run there. But I feel like they've been together for so long. Carl Anderson on his own is fine. Gallows is just fucking mediocre as shit. And the team itself just don't interest me anymore. And we've seen the whole OC thing several times already. We've seen them with Finn. We've seen them with Jay White. We've seen them with Kenny Omega. I'm just not a fan. Just not a fan of the Good Brothers at this point. That being said, what they're doing with them makes sense. Because AJ in storyline needs friends. He probably legitimately wants them back in WWE. And it's nice for Triple H to make it up to them after they kind of got fucked over and fired the first time. And that's nice and all, but I'm thinking, okay, when this feud is over, what purpose do they serve on the roster? And the whole tag team division depth excuse to me, I don't really like, because it's like, oh, they add more depth to the tag team division. Okay, so if we bring back fucking Primo and Epico, is that more depth to the tag team division? Who cares? Oh, let's bring back the Ascension, more depth. No, if I don't give a fuck about the team, then I don't give a shit about the depth. They have to be a good team for the depth to actually matter. I know they're accomplished, they won titles all across the world. Man, I don't give a shit. Like, these two just aren't exciting to me at all. In 2022, they're just not interesting or exciting at all. So good for them for making that bag. I think that's nice. I just don't think it's a super smart hire. I mean, at least for more than 6 months, because I feel like when they eventually go back to the tag team ranks, what are we going to see them against the fucking Profits again? I mean, it's the same shit. They weren't gone for that. I mean, they were gone for 2 years. But a lot of the teams that were there originally, the New Day, the Usos, the Profits, they were already facing, they're still there, and they were facing those teams before they got fired. So, we'll see. Hopefully AJ can make them interesting, and the booking under Triple H can improve their, standing in the company. Currently, it's hard for me to care, and we'll see where they go with it from here. Justin K. from Facebook's got a couple questions here. First one being, with former Honor No More members Matt Taven, Vincent, and Mike Bennett, all free agents, and the WWE having interest in Vincent and Taven, do you see the trio working as a tag team in the WWE, or is it time they separate the kingdom? I was very excited to hear that they apparently have interest in Taven, which is interesting because I think they've had interest before. It's not like Triple H is like, oh, I want to keep him away from AEW. A couple things here. First of all, I don't think AEW wants the fucking kingdom. I don't think Tony Khan wants Matt Taven. If he did, he probably would have hired him when Ring of Honor closed late last year. We have not seen Matt Taven make a single appearance in AEW or Ring of Honor since Ring of Honor closed its doors back in December. I don't think he wants Mike Bennett. I don't think he wants Matt Taven. I don't think he gives a shit about them. I think they're a great team. Here's the thing. I think Matt Taven anywhere on his own is a risk. The guy's very talented, but on his own, without a group or a tag team, he's just not overly interesting. I don't think he would really stand out amongst the rest of the roster, which is probably why it was for the better that he did not go to NXT in 2019. The problem with him not going to NXT in 2019, when his Ring of Honor run wrapped up, was that was the hottest, quote-unquote, he'd ever been. And I know I've said this before, and I'm sure he doesn't like this, but his reign was not fucking good. He had great matches, but he just was not the guy Ring of Honor should have had as their champion at that time. The Ring of Honor was in the fucking toilet. in 2019. It's not his fault. I don't blame him at all. I think he's very talented. I followed him for years. I'm still a Matt Taven fan. But he just was not the guy that should have been carrying the company back in 2019. The company was doing terribly. His matches themselves were fine. No one gave a shit about Ring of Honor in 2019. And he's just not to me world title material, and especially not at that point. It just kind of felt like the scraps of Ring of Honor and them putting the belt on him for that reason. So that being said, I feel like him on his own, don't know if that's overly interesting, although I think he deserves it because he's been working towards this for a very long time. Him with Bennett in the tag team division would be very interesting. I would be all for that, specifically with Maria as their manager. We've seen that lately in Impact. I think as of now, they're still the Impact World Tag Team Champions and on TV, because I don't think they lost the belts at Bound for Glory on Friday. Them two with Maria as their manager, I think, would work. With Vincent, it's interesting. No, I don't think Vincent should stay with Taven. That iteration of the Kingdom was probably, it was significantly weaker than the original. And Matt Taven, Bennett, and Vincent were all together in Honor No More, yes. But they were never like just a trio with them three. I think Vincent would be better on his own, or with Dutch, who I also heard was backstage at Monday's Raw. Doing something with Wyatt would be really fucking cool if you know Vincent's character. So, I haven't heard anything about WWE being interested in Mike Bennett and Maria as well. But honestly, I think hiring Maria, Mike, and Matt as the Kingdom, I don't know if you call them the Kingdom, but bring them in as a trio, I think would be great. I think that'd be very, very cool. And it's a faction, but it's not like 3 or 4 more people. It's just 2 guys and a female manager. And Maria doesn't really need to be wrestling anyway. So I think that'd be perfect. They all deserve it. They all deserve an opportunity to see if they can get over at that level. And they've been working towards it for a long time. As someone who has followed the careers of Matt Taven, Vincent, and Mike Bennett, all former Northeast wrestling stars, to see them in WWE, Bennett's already been there, but to see them all back in WWE or in WWE for the first time, for me, as a fan of all 3, would be very cool. Their second question. I'm an avid follower of New Japan and pro wrestling. This is also from Justin as well. Do you think that it is time that Carl Anderson drops the never openweight title to Tama Tonga, as they are in an ongoing rivalry, or is this a sign of the 2 promotions possibly working together? No, I don't see New Japan and WWE forming some sort of working relationship. I think that'd be cool. I think this was a case of like, all right, guys, you're free, that being the Good Brothers. You're free. Let's bring you in tonight, because it's like the season premiere. It's a big show, hot crowd. They're going to know who you are. It makes sense with the story they're telling with Styles. Let's do this now, and we'll figure out the New Japan stuff later. I hope they allow Carl Anderson to finish out his dates in New Japan and drop the championship. Otherwise, WWE doesn't give a fuck. It's not their fault. And New Japan probably should not have had their championship on a guy that was not under a contract to begin with. That is pretty fucking dumb. So I would like to see a working relationship. I don't see that happening. AEW is a far better working relationship with New Japan than WWE does, obviously. They have never really typically allowed that sort of thing. You mentioned Tama Tonga. He's defending the championship, and they're still advertising it. Him and Hikuleo in early November. I don't think he beats Hikuleo and then they do the Tama Tonga match at Wrestle Kingdom? That's in 3 months. I don't think Carl Anderson's doing double duty between WWE and New Japan for 3 months. If they allow him to do the Hikuleo match, amazing. Hikuleo is also part of the Bullet Club, so Tama Tonga is probably, I like Tama Tonga a lot more than Hikuleo from what I've seen of New Japan. Tama Tonga being the champion would make a lot more sense. I don't think actually Tama Tonga is not in Bullet Club anymore anyway, but I thought Hikuleo was. I don't know. I haven't followed New Japan in a while because I thought Gallows and Anderson were in Bullet Club before they left. Regardless, I do think Tama Tonga should be the one to take the championship from him, from what I know and from what you've said. I just don't think that's going to happen. And it's very possible because they're still advertising the match for that early November show. It's very possible that WWE Triple H turns around and says, you know what, never mind. We're not going to do this. It doesn't make sense. And, we'll just have you vacate the championship instead, which is always a shitty move. Justin's third question. You have said in the past that right now is the perfect time to be a wrestling fan. How about right now? Is this current day the best time to be a wrestling fan, and why? I think now's a better time to be a fan than even a year or 2 ago. I have said that a lot, and I maintain that, and I stand by that. Because we have actual alternatives to WWE. And the cool thing is that WWE no longer run by Vince McMahon, the creative is a lot better. Raw and SmackDown, to me, are far better shows now than they were 3 or 4 months ago. WWE's doing a lot better. AEW isn't having the best time behind the scenes right now. The product itself doesn't feel hot, but it's still a good show. It's not an awful show. They have a lot of stars there, and I'm sure they're going to be on the mend at some point. They're going to bounce back. They're going to have better shows in the near future. AEW feels like a genuine alternative to WWE right now. And then, in addition to those companies, Impact's doing good stuff. You mentioned New Japan before. There's MLW. There's Ring of Honor when it starts up again. There's NWA. There's a lot of good companies, a lot of good content, almost too much wrestling, but there's a lot of talent between all these companies, and having all these companies, specifically AEW, helps out the major talents that are disgruntled in WWE, don't want to be there anymore. They have another real place to make money in AEW. And they also have the biggest TV deal that any major promotion has had in the last probably 15 years, even more so than Impact on Spike. TBS, TNT, far bigger networks, more eyes on the product. I mean, Impact was getting more viewers than AEW is currently, but it just feels like more of an alternative, just a better product overall. And WWE's been a lot of fun to follow lately. You don't know who's going to go where, a lot of free agents popping up in each companies. So I'm excited to see where we go, and this is probably the most excited I've been as a fan in years, and I've said that a lot lately, but maybe even in 6 months from now, it's going to be even better than it is right now, Hopefully, the hope is that it continues to improve. And with wrestling, there's always going to be peaks and valleys. The product will heat up, it'll cool off. But the good thing now with WWE is that hopefully it will not reach the lows that it did when Vince McMahon was in charge. Triple H's low is probably going to still be a lot higher than Vince McMahon's high. So we'll see where we go from here. And I think the products overall are good to great, and I'm enjoying watching them every week. So it is a great time to be a fan. It is the perfect time right now to be a professional wrestling fan, and also a good time to introduce new people to the products and see if they like it as well. Let's get to the Twitter questions here, starting with that Reborn Again John Ritland. And like I said earlier, I haven't had a chance yet to organize the questions, so I'll answer one of John's questions now, go to someone else, go back to John, so that's why they're all over the place, and I apologize in advance again. John's first question was, where would you rank Bray's return at Extreme Rules amongst recent returns in WWE, over, say, the last 5 or 7 years? Also, who do you think his first feud should be with? About the first feud, like I said earlier, I really don't know. Riddle would make sense from a storyline standpoint, but if we're booking Bray as a babyface, and I think he should be a babyface, Rollins, I feel like, would make sense. He can also kind of avenge those losses, and they have unfinished business and whatever. Maybe Rollins goes after him, as opposed to Bray being the aggressor. I don't know. I just don't really want it to be over the United States Championship. I don't think that's necessary. Karrion Kross eventually would work. Not right now, though. I'm trying to think of other heels that Raw and SmackDown have that would work in that role. No one name jumps out, but that's definitely a possibility. So we'll see where that goes. As far as his return and where it ranks amongst the best and worst, not the worst, but like the best returns in recent years. The thing is that you're staying in WWE, so we're not counting like CM Punk and AEW or whatever. The ones that come to mind, there's 4. I don't think it's the greatest return ever. I don't think it's number 1 even in recent years. To me, and I'm biased, it will always be the Hardy Boys. Even more than the Edge return. I feel like Edge's return is at number 2. That was an emotional one for a lot of people thinking they would never see him back in the ring. That was awesome. The Hardy Boys one was at WrestleMania. They won the tag titles. They had been gone for a long time. It was just the perfect equation. They were fresh off their Impact run. They were in Ring of Honor like the fucking night before. Everything about that return was perfect. So I would probably put Hardy Boys 1, Edge 2 from 2020. I would even put Cody Rhodes in number 3 because that was also very emotional and just very impactful for a lot of different reasons, and it signified a lot of things. Bray's return was just fucking cool. So I would put his at number 4, but that's still good company to be in, I would say. At noob_n_co TV, their question was, what are your thoughts on Damage Control being on the main roster? Me, honestly, they haven't been presented as a major threat. Io Sky and Dakota Kai haven't defended the women's tag titles, not even once, and Bayley as a leader, I don't know they're presented as a threat. Here's the thing, they have been booked decently well, to where, like, especially early on, they get a lot of heat on a lot of people. But like lately, Bayley lost at Extreme Rules. Dakota Kai, I remember her losing to, I think she lost to Bianca, or she lost to someone on Raw. She lost to Raquel on SmackDown. I think it was either Alexa Bliss or Asuka or someone like that. She lost to someone on Raw recently. Io Sky lost to Bianca like a week ago. I feel like they lose a lot more than they should win. And like you said, they haven't defended the tag titles, not even once, since they won them a month ago. Those things are just props. Those things are props. They don't mean anything. The group itself, they just don't get great heat. You want to talk about great heat? Look at the Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio isn't great, but he's been getting great heat alongside the Judgment Day, to their credit. Damage Control just doesn't really feel like they have any heat for whatever reason. They haven't been booked terribly, but they just don't really win when it matters most. Like, it took Io and Dakota getting a rematch for the tag titles to win the tag titles then, and not the first time. So, very weird. I'm not completely down on Damage Control, but it hasn't gone over the way that I thought it would when they first started it 2 or 3 months ago. They haven't been booked terribly, but they probably should mean more and should have more heat than they currently do. So, they're not damaged goods, no pun intended there. They're not damaged goods quite yet, but they could be approaching that territory if they continue to be booked the way that they are, and they also just don't defend the titles, and they don't really mean when they don't really win whenever it matters most. Back to John Ritland, his second question was, now with Seth as the United States champion, do you see him doing the open challenges heading into WrestleMania? Assuming he holds it till Mania, who should challenge him there? No, I don't think he will, and I don't really think he needs to or should. The whole open challenge thing, it's fun, but like it's been played out amongst all the companies. WWE and AEW have done it a lot. WWE has done it a lot with the Intercontinental and specifically the United States Championship since Cena started doing it back in 2015. I don't really think there's a reason to do it, and the thing with Rollins is that he's a heel. Like, he was doing it as the Intercontinental Champion years ago, but he was a babyface at that point. So him doing it as a heel, he'll get great matches out of it. But why would Rollins, this cowardly character, unless he turns soon, why would he want to defend the championship in a match where he doesn't know his opponent ahead of time? So just a thought. I do think we're getting a feud with him and Ali soon, if only like a mini feud on Raw, based on what we've seen lately with Ali on Raw, which is cool. Ali and Rollins would work. Honestly, I think the WrestleMania match as of right now, even for that championship, should be Rollins versus Johnny Gargano, and Gargano winning the championship. That's what I would do. I think Gargano and Rollins could have a fucking banger at Mania, and it could be for a championship. That could be where he wins his first belt, blah, 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 whatever. So, I think it should be Gargano and Rollins at WrestleMania. There's a few different choices from the Raw roster, but he's the one that stands out to me personally. At Boss Antelope 86, their question was, what do you think is the end game with Judgment Day? The feud with Edge and Ray is getting tiresome and mundane. It's been tiresome and mundane for months. I've been saying this for a while. I just don't give a fuck about the feud at this point. Everyone is playing their roles well. Judgment Day is getting more heat. I thought the finish of the I Quit match was well done on Saturday. But I just want everyone involved to just move on by now. I really, the Dominic Rey Mysterio match, the Dominic versus Rey match at some point could be interesting. I don't want to see it for them to wait and see and to do it at WrestleMania. That's another 6 months from now. Unless Rey is off the show or if he goes off to do something else, they can't continuously keep the feud going for 6 months. That would be fucking impossible. Because they've already really run this rivalry into the ground. So, I don't know what the end game with Judgment Day is. That's the question. They never really established what their goal is, even when Edge was in charge. They were just there to wreak havoc. All right, cool. But, what do they want to win is the question. Are they just there to make Rey Mysterio miserable? I don't get it. So, the end game to me should be them winning championship gold or just being beaten and then conquered and then go away, getting rid of, by Edge. Because he was the one that created it in the first place. That would make storyline sense. If they opt to keep the group around, then they have to go after gold eventually. Otherwise, what's the point of even having a faction if you have no goals? At noob_n_TV, back to them, their question was, what are your thoughts on Bray Wyatt's return at Extreme Rules? And what are his intentions, and who are the other members of the Wyatt Six? They list that Huskus is Joe Gacy, Mercy the Buzzard is Grayson Waller, Ramblin' Rabbit is Bo Dallas, Abby the Witch is Liv Morgan, and the Fiend is Dexter Loomis. On that note, real quick, I have no real desire to see another Wyatt stable, specifically with those people. They get Vincent involved maybe, then maybe. I just feel like, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of that idea. I feel like Bray's perfectly fine on his own. Joe Gacy's busy doing something in NXT anyway, not that it's good, but maybe. Grayson Waller being in that group, I mean, he may have been that guy under the mask on Saturday. That doesn't mean it's necessarily him. But, like, Grayson Waller, his character does not mesh with that at all. I mean, I'm not really that big of a fan of that. Dexter, maybe. Bo and Liv, I guess, makes sense. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really sure. I just feel like he could be perfectly fine on his own. And if we're throwing in members, then I think Vincent can be one of them, because I feel like that would be interesting as well. The Bray Wyatt return I thought was great. Everything about it was perfectly done. It came off great, being in the building for it, on TV, watching it back after the fact. The crowd went nuts. The return was awesome. It was a great way to cap off the show and left me looking forward to seeing what they do next, which is hopefully we're going to find out what's next for Bray Wyatt on SmackDown. At Iwagu91, their first question was, do you consider Adam Cole, Bebe, beating Daniel Bryan, or Danielson, on SmackDown to be the biggest win of his career thus far? Maybe, because it was a big clean win over a big star on a major show while he was NXT champion. He retained the title that night. Probably, I would think that's bigger than any Ring of Honor title win he's had in the last 10 years. Bigger than most ones he had in NXT, just because it was seen by more people. It was over a bigger name. Bryan Danielson's a bigger name than fucking Johnny Gargano. Bigger than anything he's done for sure over in AEW. So, thinking about it, that probably was Adam Cole's biggest win of his career to date. And if only for what it meant for his, future in NXT and how highly they thought of him and how highly he was presented and stuff like that. His second question, your thoughts on R-Truth, whose childhood hero is John Cena. P.S. I went to the New York Comic-Con with my brother in 2009. Very cool. Yeah, I was there on Saturday. It was a fun time. Thoughts on Truth? Truth is an interesting one. He's doesn't have much value as far as like an in-ring member of the roster at this point, an active member of the roster at this point. But he's always good for comedy. And he's had a great career. I mean, all things considered. 2-time United States champion. Former tag team champion, 50-time or whatever the fuck it is, something ridiculous like that. 24/7 champion, really made that title his own in the last 3 years. Main evented Survivor Series, main evented a pay-per-view with John Cena for the WWE Championship. He was a great heel. He could be a tag team guy. He could be a singles guy. He could be a comedy guy. He could be anything you really want him to be, he could do. And he's had a lot of great moments. He made Brock crack on Raw a couple of years ago. He's done a lot of cool stuff in the last 10, 15 years, and including his K-Quick days in WWE in the early 2000s. He really has had a great career for himself, probably better and longer than anyone could have ever expected. And by all accounts, he's just a good dude. So R-Truth is cool in my book. No need to see him in a regular role on Raw in 2022, but anytime he does pop up, it's always good for a laugh. At Kyle Rochelle 19, now that Seth Rollins has won the United States Championship, who will he be in a feud with first? Ali, like I said earlier, Ali earned the respect of Bobby. He earned Bobby Lashley's respect about a week ago when they had their match on Raw. And then Rollins attacked them both. And then before Raw this week, Ali clamored Bobby for a title opportunity. Rollins wins the championship. Ali wants a match with Rollins. It makes perfect sense in my opinion. So I think it's going to be Rollins and Ali. I don't think Ali is going to be the one to take the championship from him. That would be fine. I don't think it needs to be him. I don't think it really should be him. But as a match and as a little mini feud for now, I think that'd be a great direction to go in, Ali and Rollins for the U.S. Championship. At Prince of S2, their question was, has there been a bit of a double standard with fans when it comes to the criticism of constant hirings and debuts in AEW, yet those same fans praised Triple H and WWE for basically doing the same thing as of late? From the people that I follow, I have not seen that double standard. Most people that I follow have fucking common sense. And listen, we're all excited for the returns. Everyone loves a good debut or a return. But most people with any shred of common sense will tell you, at least people that I follow, it's cool that Triple H is bringing people back, but it has to check a couple boxes. One, are they worth being on the roster? Some of these people are not. Most of them are, I would say. Most of them have value. Are they going to become groundbreakers or business, shatter business for WWE? Absolutely not. but they're all good in their respective roles. And you also have to ask yourself, what are you doing with them? Are you just bringing them back to keep them away from AEW? Are you bringing them in to actually do something with them? So that's really the big thing. Like Cross, they brought him in, immediately has direction with Drew McIntyre. Braun isn't really doing much right now, but he's been very over, and what they've done with him in Alpha Academy was fun. Who else have they brought back? Dakota Kai, Io Sky, both in a stable. Tag team champions right now. Those are another two. Santos being called up. I mean, that's not a hiring. That's a call up. But he has direction with Legado. Feuding with Hit Row most likely. People like that, I think that's great. So we need more of that, I think, as far as people having direction and where do they go from here, and are they worth even having on the roster? Like, that was my criticism when it came to, like, Tony Nese, for example. What fucking purpose does he serve in AEW? Honestly, like, I like Tony Nese. I think he's good. But if he's going to be just another tag team guy, then who gives a shit? They have enough tag teams as it is. WWE really depleted a lot of their roster depth when they fired so many people. They're getting that back. Maybe not the top talent, because people like Aleister Black and Keith Lee and Swerve, they all went to AEW. So they're not going to get all of that talent roster depth back. But getting at least some of it back and doing something with these people, giving them a chance to sink or swim on their own, to me, is awesome. So at least the people that I follow are saying the same thing that I am, that it's cool that Triple H is bringing back these people. We all love a return. But at some point, they're going to need to slow down the returns. You can't bring people back every single week, and focus on the stories they have. They have a good amount of stories right now to where I'm not really overly, worried or critical or whatever, because the stories we are getting are mostly good between the two brands. But it's going to become more about the active roster you have in creating compelling storylines with the people you just brought in. And I think it's still too soon to say, but a lot of people are of that same mindset that I am, that cool that you're bringing people back. What do you do with them? And it's all about the aftermath. And time will tell whether they work out or not. At Iwagu91, do you think AEW Rampage should be canceled? I mean, it's one less show for me to cover, so yeah. But in all seriousness, no, because AEW already doesn't have enough TV time to showcase their entire roster. I do not want to see a 3-hour Dynamite. Do not mistake that with me saying I want to see more hours of AEW TV. They need to better utilize the 3 hours they do have between Dynamite and Rampage. I'm not counting Elevation. I'm not counting Dark. Those shows don't fucking matter. I'm not even counting Battle of the Belts because that show doesn't matter either. I'm talking Dynamite. I'm talking Rampage. Rampage getting canceled would put AEW back to 2 hours. That's it. And Rampage, I think what they need to do a better job of is making that show matter. I've said this before. The show doesn't fucking matter. If you don't watch it, if you don't tune in, you don't really miss much of note at all. So just make the show matter more, put more star power on the show, have actual important storylines play out on the show. Because they went 2 years without a second show, without Rampage. But from 2019 to 2021, they did not have the star power they do now, and all the people they've hired in the last year specifically. So I would not cancel Rampage. I would just do a better job of making it mean something more and making it more must-see and more consequential and more worthwhile. At Thomas_B96 with the final question of the day. What would be a good first opponent for Wyatt in his return? Not a great final question, no disrespect to Thomas, but I've already answered this twice. I probably should have known. I probably should have read the question before I selected it here. But to answer Thomas's question, like I said earlier, Riddle, Rollins, Cross long-term would be fine. That's really the question. Great return, but like I said a minute ago, it's all about the aftermath. Where does Bray Wyatt go from here? Can they maintain the momentum? Will he go back to the old booking ways where he doesn't win whenever it matters most? Or the hocus-pocus, spooky, natural shit is too corny and it doesn't work, it doesn't get over? I'm not really sure. I would say, I just think that Rollins would be a good opponent for him because it makes sense from a storyline standpoint, and Rollins can probably have one of Wyatt's better matches. The only issue is that Rollins is now the United States champion, and I do not want to see that feud for the championship. I would really have to look at the roster. I'm not really sure who that person would be. Wyatt can only really work with select people. Certain people like Brock, for example, do not mesh well with Bray, I don't think, from a character standpoint or in the ring. So I would really have to think about it. But those are the people that really come to mind off the top of my head. He'll be on SmackDown, apparently, so Rollins wouldn't even make sense anyway. But it's not like the brand split matters regardless. Drew maybe. Drew's bit. I mean, I assume the Cross feud isn't over, so I assume he'll be busy with Cross for the foreseeable future. Beyond that, I don't know. Gunther? No. Sheamus? Probably not. Shinsuke? Interesting, but Shinsuke doesn't really mean much. I don't know, man. Those are the names that come to mind, so we'll see what they do and where Wyatt goes from here. And that's going to do it for episode 463, right? 463 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. Thank you guys for checking out the show and bearing with me through my near-lost voice. I appreciate it. We'll be back with next week with more questions answered from yours truly. Questions of yours. If you want to send them in, please do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.